I'm in my 40s now, so I grew up with the golden age of anime. Yes, it was very difficult to get hold of in the 90s, but I'll always remember the first one I watched. My nan rented it for me from the video shop, thinking it was just a generic cartoon. Bless her. Quite frankly though, I didn't know what to expect myself. I picked it up because it had a cool looking samurai guy on the front cover, along with an eye-catching name. And that film was Ninja Scroll. Now, if you've seen Ninja Scroll, you should know how amazing that film is, and why, at 14 years old, I probably shouldn't have watched it. But you should also understand why it blew my tiny teenage mind. To this day, Ninja Scroll is still one of my favourite anime movies of all time. Yes, it doesn't top Vampire Hunter D Bloodlust, also by the same director, but I've been watching anime since then, and I've seen so much that I began to share my love with my children, especially my eldest, who at nearly 14 at the time of filming this video, is another ginormous anime, manga and light novel fan. This love for the medium has always drawn me into select board games based on anime IP over the years, most of which are, unfortunately, rubbish. But I've always been open towards melding my hobbies in any way I can. And so when I heard there was a worker placement game that wasn't complex, something that I could enjoy solo along with experiencing it with my children, I knew I just had to get it. And with it being based on a setting where you get to make your own anime, something I know my kids are currently learning to draw with the potential to go into as careers, this game, Jisogi Anime Studio Tycoon, just felt like it was destined for me to purchase, play, and enjoy. But the family time might only happen once a month, if I'm lucky. The vast majority of my playthroughs are done solo. So, let's ask the question, should you play this solo? So, let's talk about the solo gameplay, as it's slightly different to multiplayer because it is entirely scenario based, with 8 scenarios of varying levels of difficulty being your main source of playtime. Once complete, you can turn the game into a beat your own score experience to get more game time out of this one, or hope to find challenges some people online might set, something I myself am hoping comes from this community the more people discover it. In Jisogi though, you take the role of an anime studio director, aiming to grow your studio from humble beginnings into a powerhouse capable of producing hit titles. Each round of studio life, you'll be discovering potential ideas through settings, plots, and twists, hiring talent, building up hype, releasing shows, and selling merchandise to maximize growth. All the while, you're dealing with massive debts and overheads over 4 rounds of gameplay. You'll be completing goals to gain bonus points as you try to complete the solo scenario you're attempting. Now, gameplay wise, this is your basic worker placement style game. You start off with little funds, a debt that will accrue interest and be harder to pay off as the rounds tick down, and 4 basic staff members that are so stressed they have become dead inside. Your staff act as your workers you need to place, and you can hire up to a maximum of 6, giving you 4 to 6 potential actions during your turn. The actions available on the studio board are as follows: write and research, These give you the script parts you need to start building up your anime. You need exactly one setting, one plot, and one twist to release an anime of your choice, but you can hoard up to 5 on your player board. Animate and outsource. This is how you get your art tokens that improve the animation of your upcoming anime you're about to release. The more art you have, the higher your popularity, but you can't pile on art until you have the scripts to back it up, meaning you need all 3 script parts locked in to start building up to the maximum of 6. Staffing. You use this section to hire new talent or promote your current staff to their Genki versions, which all grant bonuses also dotted on the board spaces you place them. Genki staff do all cost 2 wages at the end of every round though, so you need to be careful you actually have the money to pay all your staff, or you'll just end up in deeper layers of debt, which ruin your end game score. Networking, here you draw cards that give you one-time powerful boosts when you place a worker on certain spaces. These cards can be really beneficial during the early game, and you should never avoid them, as it's not often you receive a card that isn't useful, especially in the early stages. Strategize, here you pay 2 coins to grab a nice bonus boost, like promoting staff for free, gaining hype that is reduced by your dead inside staff, or instantly placing merchandise tokens you have earned instead of only placing them upon every anime release. Once you've got 3 script parts and at least 1 art token, you're ready to release an anime based on either the ones on the trend track, or you can release a cult hit if you release an anime that has none of the themes in any of the trending releases genres. Scoring for your anime sees you comparing the genres of your script parts to the 3 face-up trend cards to receive bonuses based on how many you match. You calculate the popularity with the base score, number of genre matches times number of art tokens. You then add bonus points for Genki staff preferences, spending hype, or being the first to hit a specific trend that grants 4+ points. Cult releases triple your art token score instead. But once you've calculated all your points you've earned for the release, you'll match the score to the reward table, gaining coins and victory points based on your performance. If you match up with one of the opportunity bonus points per round, you'll also gain those victory points to surge you up towards the maximum total of 29, gaining 2 coins every time you go past that score, which isn't that often the harder the solo challenge gets. The upkeep phase before the round end is the biggest kick in the teeth though, as you'll need to pay all your staff after collecting income from any merchandise deals, along with attempting to pay off your debts. Now you can leave your debts if you wish, but as money is so tight you will be forced to go into debt quite often, especially early game, as you need to pay for actions and staff wages. Managing your debt and action costs is a huge part of this game. One thing to note is there is no bot or AI in this game. This is a straight up you versus the scenario, or beat your own high score game. Yes, at the start of every round you have to flip over 3 networking cards, the ones you gain from the networking actions to give you bonuses to other actions. But all you do with those cards is block off the 3 spaces on the board they coincide with, action-wise, with another studio's tokens. This essentially means you have to pay 1 or 2 coins extra when you go to those spaces, and that's it. There is nothing to keep track of, no one to compete against, it's just you and the game trying to complete the challenge. But don't think that these challenges are easy. because the final two are very difficult to beat. I only just about managed to complete it by luck of the draw on my final round, finding the exact story pieces that meant I could release a great anime that turn. But if you like an opponent to face, or don't just like playing the game yourself solo-wise, this one unfortunately is not for you. But what do I love about this game? Well, first off, this game really nails the feeling of running an anime studio, as you're not just optimizing your turns with your worker placement and staff, but you're balancing passion projects on top of financial realities. According to Google, the most reliable source of information, over 40% of anime studios operate in severe debt. Something I didn't know until I played this game and began to understand the debt mechanic. I thought it was strange it being a major feature, and in knowing the stark realities of studios along with the work culture over there, hearing horror stories about staff being dead inside, I couldn't help obtain the feeling of horrors when running a studio, praying every release is a success and hoping your marketing is on point to create a viable studio that gains long-term success. The designers of this game, I feel, must have been involved in the industry, as this is extremely thematic when you critically examine what it's trying to state happens under the bonnet of every successful anime you watch. It's definitely changed my perspective on the Berserk, Hunter x Hunter, Frieren and Spy Family writers struggling so badly that they needed to go on sometimes permanent hiatuses. But the gorgeous art on all the boards and cards, especially the genre ones where everything you can think of is represented, and the plot, theme and twist choices you can piece together after collecting them, make this a very deeply thematic experience. I love telling my kids about the animes I'm releasing whilst playing in the living room, and it's always funny to hear them shout that would never work, Dad, when I've created a modern romance that takes place in a restaurant with a protagonist who's inherited the family business whilst being guided by AI when it comes to attracting the love of his life that has its own agenda. Yes, the solo here is you basically playing against yourself, but I actually really enjoy that, as I feel like it's my personal studio's story that way. Adding a bot or AI for me would have ruined the experience here, where challenges just do a much better job. Here the challenges introduce unpredictable pressures that make you think tactically. You're reacting to the market trends, you're dealing with the staffing shortages if your potential candidates you want, or even need in some cases, don't pop up on the market, and your studio debt feels deeply personal. The financial burden to get rid of them is on you. You need to do a better job releasing anime or merchandise to pull your studio out of the red. And if you had a bot stealing your ideas or doing more than just blocking your potential progress, I don't think it would have been as thoughtful or engaging for myself. But seeing the studio starting at the bottom, if you start with a deck card, and overcoming everything, going through a growth arc befitting an anime itself, is very satisfying. Starting with just your dead inside staff who release quick and cheap anime based on fading trends, and growing into an ambitious studio that has hired professional staff who can produce beloved classics really gives you a sense of achievement. Different genres emerging across the trend track and staff combinations constantly changing mean every solo game feels fresh. I never tired of the meta strategies or gameplay here, because Objectives and industry pressures shift every time you play, and I've always had different experiences during my 10 plays with this one. But where does this game struggle? Well, there is a bit of a steep learning curve if you start playing this game with the debt mechanic. And you need to understand that this game will punish you a lot if you're just being lackadaisical and not plotting your turns correctly. Hire staff or upgrade your dead inside workers too early and suddenly you can't afford to pay them, meaning you just go into bigger piles of debt, not keeping up with trends to maximise bonuses, and not collecting the very powerful merchandise deals means your first couple of plays might not go how you envision them. Board interactions can be fiddly until you properly learn the bonuses you get from them to boost your turns, and this will slow down your gameplay, particularly when teaching yourself how to play or doing trial by fire tests during your first few runs, especially when the challenge deck adds a lot of unpredictability in its second half. The latter two quests being very swingy if you get really unlucky on your draws, ruining even the most solid of thoughtful, well-practiced runs, which I will be honest is very frustrating, and you need to really skirt around the randomness of the markets, constantly drawing action or sci-fi plots, settings or twists when you have fantasy or romance in the trends market is devastating, but I guess that's the gamble with this industry. Now, there are 5 types of genre and 4 different pieces for that genre in every column. So you will find yourself sort of counting cards, for a want of a better word, as you need to understand what you've played, what's already in the market or on your board, and try to predict your chances of receiving the exact genres you desire. In my youth, I played poker at a professional level here, along with counting cards with friends during blackjack. Not my proudest achievement to admit, but probability is something I've harnessed over the years, and so it comes quite naturally to me, knowing where to take my chances with the 2 or 3 card flips for themes you can realistically only achieve during each of the 4 rounds, but I know others will no doubt struggle with that aspect and feel that the game is way too random or difficult to beat. This does mean, with all that planning and all the moving parts during turns, that even with only 4 of them, they can be very lengthy. During your 4 turns, you have a lot of options available to you, and only 4 to 6 worker placement actions depending on how many staff you have, along with the types of staff you have, with certain specializations only being allowed to visit certain sections of the board. Many times I've questioned what I'm going to do in my head, umming and ahhing as I debate internally the strengths of each individual placement to maximise output. And that won't be for everyone, but it is needed at the hardest levels of challenges where you haven't got a lot of options on the board early. You have to build them up alongside your studio, and that does mean initial setup and teardown can be quite lengthy as you get everything right. This game fills my coffee table. I only just have enough room to place everything, and that could be another detriment to those of you without a dedicated play space. You don't want to be sat on the floor playing this sprawled all over your carpet. Your legs will begin to ache fast, and I do feel that players who desire a strong narrative focus built into the game won't appreciate its inner themes where you have to craft your own narrative experience and successful arc. There is a heavy focus on numbers in economy. This is a very in-depth, crunchy game if you want to be successful at it solo, and that won't be for everyone. Myself though, I absolutely adore this game, and it is an almost perfect solo experience for myself. It's the right level of crunchy decisions and theme, hidden behind an easy to learn but hard to master worker placement game that I absolutely love. These solo challenges are very compelling, even if I'm now left wanting more after completing them, especially with only 8 on offer. But each of them being different and offering varying difficulty challenges is a good thing. As now that I've played this for what is essentially a week and a half at this point, I feel like I can take a break and come back in a few months' time, ready to start over, relearning the game, and playing through all the challenges once again. Price-wise, this game will cost around about £60 with postage and VAT if you get it through the currently running reprint Kickstarter. I bought this for £45 second hand with postage, and I do feel like I've gotten my money's worth, even by playing exclusively solo so far. I want to play this with my kids. I will take it to my next work function for them to experience, as they are all anime fans there, and so this was worth it for myself. The game is worth it for solo only for me. It's fun to play, but you do need to understand its crunchy limitations if you desire picking it up for solo only play yourself. If you prefer light, story heavy or fast games, the depth here might feel overwhelming, especially in solo mode where every decision matters and randomness can sting. I myself have already backed the 1.5 upgrade pack, and I'm really excited to test out the new features, especially the upcoming new game mode. But this game has such great production values on all the artwork and game pieces, along with insert storage inside the box, making it a very special game. It cannot be understated enough that the creators here really knew the industry and what they were doing, making something that will forever have a permanent home on my Kallax shelf. Hopefully though, with this video I've given you ample information to make an informed decision on the game and answer the question for you: should you play this solo? Thanks for watching.